Welcome to the LawyerFair.co.uk Daily Podcast. LawyerFair helps businesses find the right lawyer at the fairest price. But on this podcast, we just chew the fat with some great guests.
So indeed, welcome. Thank you, Penny, for that charming and very sultry introduction. It is the LawyerFair Daily Podcast. My name is Andrew Weaver, CEO of LawyerFair.co.uk, and today we are without guest. Unfortunately, we did have a guest. We had a chap calling in from Germany, relating to the FinTech week that's coming next week, but unfortunately our technology wasn't strong enough to maintain a conversation, or at least one that we could record. So I have dragged in my poor colleague Polly, who had no intention of being broadcast onto a podcast this afternoon, but such is your devotion to the company, Polly, that you've kindly joined us. Welcome.
Hello, Andrew. You know I love LawyerFair, so I'll always come on when someone drops out.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Step into the gap, because we are, of course, contractually obliged to generate one podcast per day.
Exactly.
Particularly as I failed to generate any this week, because if I was to give you my 4 or 5 key lessons of the last week or so, or key moments, Polly, one would be don't go to a 3-day musical when you've already got a bad back.
I did say to you, you are going to have a tough weekend ahead of you.
Yes.
And 4 days camping with your bad back. So.
Well, I said 3-day musical.
You can only blame yourself from here.
I said I must correct myself. I said a 3-day musical. It wasn't 3 days of We Will Rock You. That would have been far too painful to have endured. This was a trip to Festival 6, which is I have to say, a very fine festival. Very much for the kind of middle-class, middle-aged people like me.
And what was the highlight, Andrew?
The highlight was laying down at the end of each day. Such was the pain my back was going through. But no, it's hosted at this beautiful village called Portmeirion, which is up on the North Wales coast, which is a really weird, eccentric, and charming little place.
Oh, lovely!
And they kind of embed the festival in the village, which really makes it quite unique. And it is lovely. It is adorable. But I knew when I was travelling up, and my pinched back was causing me some aggravation, that 3 10-hour sessions on my feet was not going to be good. And so I am recording this on my back as we speak. Not quite, but it feels like I should be. So that was definitely a low light of the week, Polly. But we have some announcements to make, don't we?
Yes, we have some big announcements to make.
We have some very, very big announcements. Well, do you want to give the first announcement?
Yeah, why not? So our big announcement of the week, which I was very excited about, and of course you were as well, Andrew, we have actually reached I think it's the second stage, and we've reached boot camp of the Pitch 2015, which is a huge event within the UK and across the UK. So we've reached the final 100 of the event, which is really exciting for us.
It is exciting, and as any startup entrepreneur will know, that you kind of clutch at straws of success when you're starting. You grasp onto any kind of morsel of encouragement, and so to actually make it to the top 100 on the pitch, and I know they have many hundreds of companies applying, is absolutely fantastic. So that's brilliant news. And we were chuckling before we came on air, actually, Polly and I, that one of the real challenges of running a startup is the fact that you seem to be chasing people all the time. You're always chasing for positive response, because you're only a little tiddler and you're trying to make your way in the world. And so when you do get these kind of small little fill-ups, you genuinely have to get out the prosecco and have a large glass of celebration, I think.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, also when I was looking at the pitch and the kind of previous sort of people that have been on the event itself, they've had some real companies that have come out and just done really well. And the whole event just seems like even if you kind of don't reach the final stages, it's just an overall great event for people who want to find out more how to pitch your idea and kind of work on that classic elevator pitch, which is perfect for a startup, really.
Well, I've already got Polly training on that elevator pitch, but let me tell you, we are aspiring to the final, and actually a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, who I do another little podcast with, called Henry Tapper, who I know is a devoted listener to this one. So hello, Henry. He made the top 30 last year, and he wrote a great blog about it. If anybody wants to read a blog about an industry that you might not find the industry very interesting, but the blog is great, then you must read Henry Tapper's blog. It's called Pension Ploughman. It's about pensions, but he also writes some fantastic blogs about business and life in general. And he wrote a lovely blog, actually, this time last year when he made himself got onto the pitch top 30. He got into the final. So we are following in great footsteps. And I'm pleased to say that Henry's even older than I am. So I know that I'm not the oldest person to have made the pitch final. So So there we are. That was great news. And we also have been ploughing through these we recorded our 50th podcast this week, Polly.
I honestly can't believe it. And we have had a load of exciting guests on all our 50, which is amazing.
We have. We're even including a couple of our own internal weekly roundups in that 50.
Exactly.
But we seem to be getting, it's one of those lovely things that is kind of building its own momentum to some extent. And we're getting some fantastic guests. I think the last one we spoke to Zufi Deo this week, which was about knowledge management in business, which was fantastic. Zufi is a kind of award-winning advisor. But last week as well, we spoke to Martin Zwilling, who is, I think, has the most followers I've ever encountered on Twitter with anybody I've ever spoken to. And he's a seriously experienced and well-networked entrepreneur based over in Arizona. And we are very, very lucky to be getting people coming to us now that are seriously pucker and high-value people. We've got a whole batch of them coming through next week. But we are, if anybody is listening to this and is interested, we are always interested in talking to particularly entrepreneurs, particularly people with ideas and experience and businesses that they've either just launched or have successfully exited, etc. It's a real world of the individuals within the entrepreneurial world I find fascinating. That everybody's, for want of a better term, everybody's journey is interesting. So, if there is anybody out there who wants to come and join us, we are always hungry for guests, and I think we've got about 10 or 15 days blocked out, but we're always hungry for guests, and we are going to get to 100, and we're going to increase the quality and the value of these podcasts as we go forward.
Exactly. I think we're also going global quite quickly with our podcast, aren't we, Andrew? We're getting them from all over the place right now. It's great.
We're going global. We've had a number of we've launched on iTunes, Polly, haven't we? So that's helping our exposure. Therefore our reach is very much global. Although I'm going to have to go some to match our good friends at Business Bunker, which is a really wonderful community radio station down in Kent. Paul Andrews, who hosts Business Bunker down there. Again, a shout out to Paul. I very much hope he listens to every one of our podcasts, as I am devoted to his weekly Business Bunker show. But he is able to, I'm not sure if he can track the people that listen to him or he just found out by accident, but he found out that there were people listening to his show in the Andaman Islands.
Oh, wow.
Which is, have you any idea where the Andaman Islands are?
No, but it sounds exotic.
I'm exactly with you. I think he did tell me it's somewhere stuck between two large land masses, but it is a pretty remote place, and he had a listener, I think listeners, coming in from there. So we aspire to the greatness of Business Bunker, but we are getting some great coverage. So I think I'm very pleased. I've made no inappropriate comments on LinkedIn this week, Polly.
Well, speak for yourself, Andrew. No, I'm joking.
Have you been dishing out inappropriate comments?
On behalf of yourself.
Thank you very much.
You might not feel the repercussions just yet.
This is the danger of allowing other people to use your LinkedIn profile. I'm surprised he didn't use that as a defence, actually, our friend in the current headlines.
Oh, God, yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Andrew? What do you think?
Well, I have to say, I think she's right. And I think, I noticed actually this afternoon there was some absolute bloody rubbish on the Daily Mail, which isn't unusual.
It doesn't sound like that.
It doesn't very unusual for them, commenting that she'd made similar comments on Facebook. But, it's a fairly obvious response that there were comments to a friend of hers, it looked like, rather than some random bloke from high up in a city office. But anyway, so I have some sympathy with her, and I think that, I don't think men realise sometimes, actually, when they do overstep the mark, however innocently. Well, what's your views, Polly?
I mean, I think LinkedIn is a completely different ballgame to, say, Facebook or Twitter. It's literally called a professional network for a reason, and to open up a comment to speak with someone like that, it's just... I mean, I would be a little bit offended, to be honest. But
well, it's not called Linda, is it?
Yeah.
It's called LinkedIn. Anyway, I think perhaps he got himself confused on which platform he was using, but there we go. So I think we've chalked up a very entertaining 9 minutes of chat, and I very much hope that Lars, who was unable to get through to us today, will be with us on Monday. But Polly, thank you for this podcast number, whatever it is, 50 plus. We are rocking towards the 100.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Polly. Have a great weekend. And that was the LawyerFair Daily Podcast. We will be back with proper guests next week. But thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for listening to the LawyerFair.co.uk Daily Podcast. If you'd like to listen to more, why not subscribe and download each episode via iTunes or visit us on the LawyerFair.co.uk website.